I think we've still got a few people coming in, but we don't have long today. So I am going to get started. And I'm just going to start with a huge thank you to everyone here today for coming to the official launch of our Patients and Families online hub today, which you can see on the screen when we talk about the Patients and Families online hub. This is what we're talking about. Um, my name is Alison Golding. I am the Comms and Engagement Lead for Radiotherapy UK. I'll be doing a tour of the site today, so I'll stop sharing for now, but we'll be coming back to this. And within this part of our website, we have more than 50 resources and almost 20 videos. It's taken us around 18 months to complete this first phase, and we're busy planning phase 2 now. If you're inspired by what you hear today and you think this is a valuable resource, please join our Miles for Radiotherapy Summer Challenge and help us keep fundraising so that we can make phase 2 happen as well. Speaking of funding, we have some very heartfelt thanks for our funders and supporters to date: AstraZeneca, OpenWorks, Flen Health, Amethyst Radiotherapy, Virtual, Local IQ, Be Clear, and everyone who took part or donated to Miles for Radiotherapy 2023. Our volunteers, patient clinical engagement groups, information reviewers, the team at the Patient Information Forum, more on that later, and the other charities that have supported this work, and many more wonderful supporters. To everyone who's contributed, this project genuinely would not have been possible without you. And I think we've got Lorraine from OpenWorks here and Kelly from Flen Health here. So hello to you and thank you. What you'll see today is the product of your support. So thank you all so much. I'll start with our mission, which we define as simple but not easy, and that's to provide trusted resources and support for any and every UK adult who has radiotherapy, whether they started treatment last week, last year, or a decade ago. Every year in the UK, we have 160,000 courses of radiotherapy given, and we know people have very varying experiences.
Microphone symbol.
Those experiences sometimes very literally leave a mark. And we know that the information people get can have a real impact on their health, well-being and outcomes. I'm so glad we have Sophie Randall, Director of the Patient Information Forum here today. Sophie, I'm just going to jump in with some of the findings from the forum's Knowledge is Power report, which I highly recommend reading, that I think illustrate this perfectly. So 2 insights here. A quote from the report: "Failure to provide information allows harmful misinformation to flourish. 1 in 10 say they have been affected by online misinformation, rising to 1 in 5 for ethnic minorities." And I know Sophie's going to speak to this more in a short time. And then another quote, very important: "A Health Foundation study of 9,000 people with long-term conditions found those who felt confident to manage their health had 38% fewer A&E visits." So I think there's a huge act of service that we can deliver if we play our role and our part in offering people trusted information. We've also got a lot of anecdotal evidence. Someone who I think is on the call today sent us a screenshot from one of the support groups that they are in, and it was about a young woman whose relative had told her that radiotherapy was the same as being put in a microwave. And as a result, she was genuinely frightened to start treatment, and thank goodness she had that support group. I know our one of the patients we work with shared our website, and a lot of people chimed in to explain it more carefully, but sometimes you don't know what information people are getting and how that can set them up to have quite a negative experience of radiotherapy. From our focus groups, we've known for some time that patients are looking for trusted information that can help and empower them. And the fact that our Patients and Families Hub has had 10,000 active users with almost 0 promotion shows people are looking for answers. If we get it right, we hope to make a measurable, meaningful difference in people's experience of radiotherapy and cancer. Throughout, we've put a strong emphasis on encouraging people to ask questions and have that conversation with their clinical team. I know we have a lot of NHS staff with us today who do an incredible job. We cannot take your place and we're not trying to, but we also hope to offer you resources that you can signpost to, that people may be able to read, watch, absorb in their own time, that may help lighten the load somewhat. We want to help people go from feeling like a rabbit in headlights to more empowered, calm, and knowing what to expect. In a moment, I'm going to hand over to our brilliant guest speakers, and then we'll have a short tour of some of the sites and take some questions. But first, I'm going to share my screen and a Mentimeter question and ask you to answer this so that we can collectively make a word cloud together. And the question is, and I'll just share my screen in a moment, can you think of a moment when you got the right information at the right time and how that made you feel? And it doesn't have to be health related. So it might be something connected to parenting, education, travel. It might be health related. Just have a little think on that. That would be great. So here we go. Just going to move this. And can everyone see my screen? Great. So if you haven't used Menti before, you can go to menti.com on your phone or on your computer, and you just type in the code that you see on the screen there, which is 5740. Great word to start with, 4490. And you can also scan the QR code in the bottom left-hand corner to take you to the site as well. So if you can just have a think of a word that clicks for you, that would be great. My example, oh, thank you. These are amazing. So I had a really bad pain in my left leg for a long time, and a specialist, a clinician, told me that it was actually coming from my back, and it was like core work and Pilates that would resolve it. And my feeling was, wow, because I'd been barking up completely the wrong tree, trying to fix the leg when actually the problem was coming from my back.
Sorry, Alison, I'm having trouble doing that. Can you put the word happy on for me, please?
Of course,
Sorry,
of course.
yeah, thanks. I'm all over the place this morning. Sorry, thank you.
No worries, Kathy. We'll put that on for you. Lindsay, would you mind popping that in for Kathy? She's on it. What a star. Thank you. I'm getting some lovely words through. At ease, grateful, relief, disappointed from someone. Be interested to know a little bit more about that in the comments if you feel comfortable sharing. Respected, supported, heard, happy's gone on there, safe. Really nice. Thank you, everyone. Do keep adding away and we'll share that in our follow-up as well. Okay, so I'll just stop. Okay, actually, I'll give it 10 more seconds. That's great. And then I'll stop sharing there. I'm juggling a few screens like sort of mission control today. So thank you for your patience. So, on the subject of right information at the right time, I am genuinely delighted to welcome Sophie Randall, who's Director of the Patient Information Forum. Radiotherapy UK joined as members of the forum in 2023, and we've been through 2 successful assessments, and we're continuing to learn and work towards the agreed criteria so people can trust our resources and benefit from them. Sophie joined PIF in February 2018. She's responsible for strategy, policy and partnerships. She was formerly MD of Oyster Healthcare Communications, which was a specialist patient communications agency. Welcome, Sophie. Please, can you tell us more about the PIF tick, what it means, why it's so important, and share some of the insights into the process we've been going through to be PIF tick accredited?
Yeah, absolutely delighted to do that. So I'll just try and share my screen. It worked when we tested a minute ago. So let's just see if it works now. Can you see my screen? Yep. Okay, I just put it into the slideshow view. So we've got limited time, so this will be a rattle stop tour. So I'm Sophie, I'm the director of the Patient Information Forum. The Patient Information Forum is a cross-sector membership organisation for people involved in patient information and support. And we provide expert guidance on the production of high quality health information. We are unusual in a membership organisation because we go cross sector. So we have people from the NHS, we have people in health charities, and we also have people from industry. And everybody comes together as a community practice to set best practice on health information. And we run the PIF quality mark for health information, of which Radiotherapy UK is certified. And we started that in, well, 5 years ago, actually, exactly 5 years ago, just as the pandemic was starting after a successful pilot. And that was really because NHS England had disbanded the old information standard and there was a gap. And goodness, what a gap that's turned out to be with the rise in the sort of supercharging of misinformation post-pandemic and via AI. So our vision is really aligns to what you were just saying, Alison, and that's that everyone has access to health information to allow them to make informed decisions about their health, well-being and care. And that everyone is really important to us because there's lots of evidence-based information out there, but it is not always accessible to people. And it's that piece when we're thinking about health inequalities that everyone has access. So what is the PIF tick? It is the only independently assessed quality mark for print and digital health information. And as I said, we started it in 2020, and there are now almost 160 organisations certified under the scheme, and it's growing. It's growing a lot at the moment because I think people are starting to really recognise that mark, and there is a real need. As Alison mentioned, from our research, we found 1 in 2 people struggle to identify health information they can trust. It's had a lot of endorsement. The World Health Organization featured PIF tick as a case study in its toolkit on tackling misinformation in non-communicable disease. And PIF tick's also been used as the basis for other quality standards, including those set by the NHS and the Academy of Medical Royal Colleges for its content standard on social media. And we're just about to start some more work with the Department of Health and Social Care to expand the scheme out for more people in rare disease. So the criteria, the PIF tick criteria are quite stringent actually and robust, and they're designed to promote a culture of continuing improvement in health information. So to be awarded the tick, you have to be meeting an acceptable standard against all of these criteria. So the first is that you have a consistent and documented process to create your information, that your staff are trained, this is a specialist skill, to produce health information, that when you're thinking about your resources, they meet a genuine need of your audience. Fundamentally, vitally important that the evidence is reliable and it's up to date, but also that it's communicated clearly, because evidence can be really complex. To ensure you're doing that, we ask you to involve your users to make sure they're involved in the development of health information and really making sure you're hitting that everyone point and not excluding people. So you're making sure the information is written to meet sort of health literacy needs. You think about digital inclusion, you think about accessibility right down to the need for translation. And when we're thinking about health literacy, the OECD data shows us actually numeracy and language skills are low in the UK. For 1 in 4, 1 in 5 people have got low literacy and low numeracy. So it's really important to hit those accessibility points. But also, if you've just been diagnosed with a disease, it can hit you like a mallet. That's a quote from one of our people with cancer that we've worked with. And actually, it's really difficult to process information. It's important that information meets the transparency and legal requirements on GDPR, promotion of medicines and other regulations, that you have a process for getting feedback so that you can improve what you're doing, and that actually you think about how you're going to get the information to people, because it's no use having the best resources in the world if nobody finds them. And finally, that you measure that impact. So it's really important as health information producers to show we're making a difference. You know, it's great to show the reach, but what is really powerful when you hear the difference that information makes to somebody. And I think that the example you just cited about somebody having that misinformation about radiotherapy being like put in a microwave just shows that actually if you then connect somebody to evidence-based information, the reassurance and the kind of impact that can have from somebody who may have declined a treatment. So when we're thinking about how you implement the PIF tick, we start at the very top. We review your process. We compare your processes or standard operating procedures with our criteria, and then you will work with your assessor to address gaps, and these will be discussed at your assessment, and you'll get some recommendations. Every organisation that has been through PIFTIC has had some areas to work on in their process. And then we ask you to follow that process when you produce the information so that you can then put the tick in it. And then you'll go through that review cycle as you bring in that feedback and impact measurement to see what's changed and actually to respond to new challenges. So AI, for example, has been a massive challenge in health information recently, and there are now criteria in our latest version to address that. So what does this mean for Radiotherapy UK? Well, you were recertified in March this year, and your process was fully assessed, and it met nearly all of the criteria. And actually, you've got a gold standard, desirable level grading on leadership, and leadership is really important. Without leadership, none of the other criteria flow through. But there are always areas of improvement, and they're always, these were highlighted, and these are now being addressed, and some related to the new criteria on AI, and some related to translation, and some related to some of the very common areas like improving risk communication. So that is absolutely normal for organisations to have areas to work on. But when we do that, we become this amazing community of practice, and we have expert webinars and training sessions and one-to-one support for organisations to get to the best point they can be within the resources available to them, because our scheme covers the smallest charities right through to the largest pharmaceutical companies. But it's there is a consistent standard and mission behind what we do. And so I suppose just to sum up, why does it matter? Why do we need certification of health information? And Alison, you already shared the findings on misinformation. But because of the wealth of ways people can access health information now, half of adults struggle to access trusted health information. And 2 in 3 say independent verification would increase their trust. So this is why it's so important that we have a certification scheme that's robust, that people can recognise and know that information is trustworthy, because people are being harmed by misinformation. And we heard that statistic from the research that 1 in 10 people have been impacted by misinformation, and that rises to 1 in 5 for ethnic minorities. So there's a health equity issue here. And I'll just mention one academic that we worked with, who's a sociologist, who put Cancer Cure into TikTok and then analysed the content, transcribed the content of about 200 videos, and 82% of those videos were fake news or misinformation. And they were a mix of contrarian medics and people pushing alternative remedies. So there was a real financial incentive. So things like apricot kernels will cure cancer. But these kinds of videos, people might say they're not looking for information, but they're surrounded by it. And this information is feeding into kind of people questioning evidence-based treatment. We also know that healthcare professionals are struggling to signpost trusted information. So the scheme also provides some reassurance to healthcare professionals that this is information people can trust, and they can signpost it with some kind of confidence and certainty that this has gone through a robust assessment process. And actually we're working with NHS England and public libraries to signpost people via public libraries as part of the health literacy partnership. They're now signposting information to PIFTIC organisations, and we're starting this new programme with DHSE. And the last thing I would like to say about misinformation is there has been a new change in the environment. Google AI search summaries, you've all seen, they appear at the top of the Google search bar now. We've just done an analysis of those with some of our members. Again, these contain misinformation. They're based on non-UK sources. Generally, they're based on US sources, which aren't necessarily appropriate for the UK audience. But they also, as all AI generated content, suffer from hallucinations. And the simplest example I can give you, because there are lots we've submitted screenshots and a dossier of evidence to Google. The simplest example of that I can give you is from the Lullaby Trust, one of our members, which is a cot death charity. Google AI says it endorses a product it believes to be dangerous. So it's pernicious and it's inaccurate, and health is the most is the topic most likely to produce an AI summary. So the impact of this is that charities across the sector are seeing their traffic fall because people don't go beyond those search summaries. So my message to healthcare professionals on the call is please signpost to trusted sources of information. The public trusts Google, and this AI arms race is actually putting them into the path of more misinformation, and it's stopping people reaching the credible information and support provided by the NHS and UK health charities. So please do signpost to these trusted information producers, because they are working really hard to constantly improve what they do. They're strengthening and streamlining their production process, but most importantly, they are providing credible, accessible information. So that's my plea to those of you on the call who are able to signpost. Please do.
Sophie, thank you so much. And those statistics are genuinely shocking that you shared with us around TikTok and AI. So it's really sobering. You realise how high the stakes are. I know from our perspective that the PIVTIC process has taught us so much. We're very keen to keep learning, but we feel we're in a far better position from going through this 2 years of learning and seeing things from different angles and understanding the need for proper procedure and rigour in what we're doing. So thank you very much. So as previously mentioned, our patient engagement group and review team have been central to this project, and every resource has been reviewed by a patient or patients. And so I'm very happy to introduce Andy. Andy Tudor is a Radiotherapy UK trustee and a brain tumour survivor. He's been a huge influence on our work, pushing us to find new ways to bring the patient voice front and centre. He's worked on many resources with us, took part in our very first engagement group back in 2023, and that has shaped the way we approach this project and has supported us also with oversight in his role as trustee. Andy, please can you tell us a little bit more about your involvement and why you think the patient voice is important when it comes to patient information projects like the Hub?
Thanks, Alison. Yes, I'm Andy. For those of you that don't know me, 8 years ago, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor, which was treated surgically, removed surgically, right to grade 2 parietal. 3 years ago, I had a second brain tumor that was small enough to be treated with stereotactic radiotherapy, or gamma knife, as it's commonly known. So I've seen both sides of surgery versus radiotherapy, and believe me, radiotherapy is far easier on both the body and in terms of recovery. So after the radiotherapy treatment, I thought, how can I help? How can I give something back to because I had world-class treatment, the staff, the facilities. I was lucky, I guess, a world-class treatment. So how can I give something back? So I got involved with Radiotherapy UK and their patient engagement group. It's kind of the group you don't really want to be on, if I'm honest, because it was made up by pretty much patients and the odd care of people that have had various types of cancer. And radiotherapy is part of that treatment as well. But it was important to get our voices, and hats off to Radiotherapy UK. They recognise the importance of getting the patients involved right throughout the whole process. So that group, like Alice said, we hopefully added some value in terms of how the Patient and Families Hub was set up, what sort of information it had, how it can be used and how it can be accessed, because people who typically use it probably at the time they're told they need radiotherapy aren't necessarily listening, and they need all the support they can get. And I know I had a lot of support from charities when I was first diagnosed and then treated, and it made the world of difference to me and my family. So we got involved through the patient engagement group. That led to me getting involved in some of the campaigning with the charity. Again, they were brave enough to put me in front of MPs and Lords, heaven forbid, Westminster, to campaign for better access, better funding, and help launch the 10-year Radiotherapy UK strategy for the UK. So that's an interesting point. Not that we're here to discuss that today, but again, the patient really good at putting the patient, the charity really good at putting the patient voice in front and center. So why do I think it's important to have the patient voice involved in projects like this? To me, it's a couple of reasons really. One is that we can sort of talk about it from the patient perspective. So I know there's staff and manufacturers on the line on the call today, and what you do is amazing, by the way, and I probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. But it's also recognizing the fact that when patients need information, they kind of need it in language and words and information that they can understand, which isn't always the case with medical information, because believe me, when you enter the world of radiotherapy, you're entering a world of long words that you don't necessarily understand, especially if you haven't had no experience of it before. So it's important that patients can sort of just add that level of information and say, well, this is how the other patients might want to receive that information. This is what they'd actually want to know. It's a bit like if you watch a sports program, they'll have the commentator there, but they'll always have a pundit, someone who's played that sport. Also, other programs like politics or royal events, you always have somewhere there that kind of understands and has been through that process and on that journey. So I think that's why it's one of the reasons why it's important to have patients involved. And the other one is that people accessing that information, if they see that people like myself were involved with setting up the information, providing the information, it's trusted, we believe in it, so they should believe in it. But also they're hearing from someone who's been through the journey and come out the other side and survived so far. And I think that's important. So there's a level of reassurance, not only in what we're saying, but also the fact that we're saying it. So patients getting involved is hopefully a comfort to those accessing the information that, you know, we've been through that journey. So it might help them go through the same journey and feel less anxious, less stressed. And that if they're less anxious and less stressed, they'll hopefully take the information in better and trust the information that we provide. So I think that's another vital reason for getting patients involved. And again, hats off to the charity for allowing us to play such a key role in providing this information. So in specifics, there's a lot of information on there, but if you haven't got tired of me already, there's a couple of videos on dealing with that I produced for the charity that's on the hub, that are dealing with fatigue, which is probably one of the biggest after effects of any cancer treatment and any radiotherapy is dealing with fatigue. So there's a couple of, hopefully what I find useful in helping me deal with fatigue. And I worked with Amethyst UK on developing their really good, I'd say that, video or explaining all about gamma knife and stereotactic radiosurgery. So there's some real information on there that I've been involved with as well. So again, hopefully it adds credibility, then it can be trusted because it's spoken to from someone who's been through it and has lived it. So I hope that explains why I've been involved. And it's not just me, there's other patients covering all sorts of cancer and treatments involved in putting the hub together. So if you want to know a bit more about me and my story is on the hub, and it's not a competition, but if you did want to go on and have a look and get the number of views up for me, that would be really appreciated. So with that, I'll hand back to Alison.
You, Andy, you are always such a joy, and we really appreciate like the different levels of input and support that you've brought to the charity. Thank you so much. And I'll just move on to introducing our next guest speaker. Of course, I hope it goes without saying, with everything you've heard so far, the project would have been completely impossible without our clinical reviewers, many of whom are ambassadors for the charity. Lucky us. I'm so pleased to now welcome the one and only Naman Anderson, who many of you will already know as co-founder and co-host of the Rad Chat Oncology podcast and website now this year as well. Naman has been very supportive of this project and brought some brilliant insights to the table around his research and practice as a senior therapeutic radiographer. Welcome, Naman. Please, can you tell us more about your involvement?
Thanks for having me. I was just looking on my LinkedIn before coming on. I've been an ambassador for Radiotherapy UK for almost 6 years now. So I've been there for quite a long time, which is amazing. I think as we've talked about safety and information and stuff, us as clinical people, we wouldn't have a job without patients, but it's also our responsibility to make sure that everything that is out there is safe, accessible, and while there might be generic information, also some of the nuances that we pick up from working, that we can also get that across so people can find different ways to manage side effects and look after each other. And I think the main thing, as everyone has kind of alluded to, is the community that comes from this amazing charity. And it's great that we can also feed in, but also I think we've all learned a lot from our patient ambassadors as well, bits and pieces that may be in different areas of the country that we hadn't considered. Because again, I live in London, we're very lucky with our services and what people have access to, but in some other areas that we've engaged with, we don't always see that, and that comes in through their clinical information. And I think, yeah, Alison, you mentioned about the work that I've been involved in around health inequalities, etc., and that's come into the breast radiotherapy, the video and the work that was that's been put out. So that was great to be involved with that, just to talk about skin tone differences, different languages for skin reactions. So for people with white skin, brown skin, and black skin, so obviously radiotherapy can be given to anyone, and cancer doesn't discriminate. So it's really important to be part of that kind of process. And obviously, I'm very biased, and I enjoy this challenge. Hence why I got this QR code ready, so that if anyone does want to sign up. It's great to be part of it from that perspective, that we're also promoting healthy living, prehab, rehab, but also a bit of competition, just like Andy with his views. I'm going to aim for miles as opposed to views on any videos. But yeah, that's kind of the involvement with it, I think. And should say as well, I'm here because Rose had to go to a dentist appointment, so we have some great ambassadors from all across the radiotherapy pathway, really. And I'm glad I'm here and not at the dentist like Rose. So I'll hand back to you, Alison. Thanks.
Thank you, Naman. And anyone on the call, please go look up Naman and look at his research and spread it far and wide, because he is an absolute groundbreaker on this one. And that's not always an easy place to be in. So we are hugely grateful that you find time to be involved with a charity and to do what you do and to make us so much better. I am going to give a short tour of the site now. So let me just pull up my screen. With a little bit of luck, you could hopefully see our home page. Thumbs aloft. Thanks, Lindsay. So I'm starting here so that you know that you just need to go to our home page. And then if you look at these tabs along the top, patients and families is where we're heading today, and it's the hub that we're talking about that you hopefully saw on my screen earlier. So a little bit of a whistle-stop tour, because as I say, there's a lot of resources on here. We have an introduction video. Naman mentioned Rose Ting, one of our other ambassadors, and Rose has very kindly made us a welcome video that gives people ideas about how to use the site and some key information about the site. So that is available to watch. We also have a medical disclaimer on the page, which is obviously very important. Again, just talking about those boundaries of we are not trying to replace somebody's clinical team or the information that is specific to their treatment and them as a patient. So that is there. And again, please have a look. We really do always encourage people throughout the site to go and speak to their clinical teams. Sometimes it's not easy because of the pressure on the NHS, which I think we all are well aware of. But it's also really important to encourage people who are simply nervous or anxious about asking questions, that it's really important to ask those questions and to understand, and that professionals like Naman and Rose and all of our ambassadors and the much wider therapeutic radiographer community really want to support people and have a huge host of information. And patients may sometimes think, oh, this is a nurse looking after me, and this is not a specific therapeutic radiographer profession. So we're really keen to show that this is a unique workforce with unique skills to support people. With our 2023 patient engagement group that Andy was part of, we developed a patient journey pathway. So anybody coming to the site can work through that, starting with what is radiotherapy before, during, and after treatment. Also with an acknowledgement that treatment doesn't end for everyone. So we've made that clear in that section. And then 2 subjects that come up time and again, side effects and late effects. We have so much more we would like to do around that subject. It's absolutely an enormous subject, but we think we've made a decent start. We also have, very close to my heart, your stories. So if you go on the site, this is where you'll find Andy's story and many more as well. And we've really tried to reflect a range of experiences. And if you're a patient on this call and you would like to share your story, please reach out or drop us a message, and we'd love to hear from you. We also, as part of our PIFTIC accreditation, it's also about signposting to people to information that's already there, so not reinventing the wheel each time. And we know we are playing our part within a much wider cancer community and a whole host of amazing charities, some of whom are here today, and they are in a big directory here as well, along with some resources that are more specific to side and late effects. So they are some of the key areas. I will just jump in and give an example of a few things that are covered in the welcome video. So in the before treatment section, we've given people some ideas around what questions they might want to ask their team so that they can run through that and see what feels right to them to ask. And there's a little download button here, and they can download that as a Word document, print it out and take it along to their appointment. And we don't have that feature for every piece on the website, but we have it for a lot. So that's a way of, if you need a hard copy of this information, you can print it out and take it with you. And the plan, and one of the areas for improvement for us, is to have that for every single resource. We've also made a lot of videos, which we're really proud of, and we've been so lucky because we've had some amazing clinicians have done interviews with us. And just an example, so you can see Andy's Gamma Knife radiotherapy videos are in here, and you can see in this page that we were so fortunate to have Dr. Alison Tree do an interview with us and tackle common questions that a patient group had devised for Alison. Again, it can't comment on the specifics that somebody might need to know, but it might give them that overview and help them pick up that information in a less stressful environment, you know, in a short appointment, for instance. It might just give them the time to sit at home and go through it. And I know that the patient who reviewed this video said that he had lost his hearing through chemotherapy, and he is non-verbal because of a laryngectomy. And he said it was really helpful to be able to pause a video and go back and watch again in his own time. So hopefully that's going to be also helpful to many more people too. We also have, and I unfortunately can't go through everything because I know we're quite short on time, but we worked with the amazing Sam Bostock, who also did a video overview on late effects, answering common questions around that, and also some of the emotional and nuance around late effects and the difficult feelings people and the difficult questions people have around that, such as, you know, is it, you know, has something gone wrong with my treatment that I now have these late effects? And Sam is an expert in this area, and just also a really lovely person. So I think she just handles this subject with a lot of sensitivity and a lot of compassion. You can tell that she speaks to people who are living with late effects every day. So there's lots of videos on here that we're really proud of. So please do go and have a look and share them if you think there are people who can benefit from them. I think that's probably all I've got time to show you for now. So I'm going to hopefully stop sharing there. So again, the majority of these resources come with the PIFTIC. You'll be able to see that in the top right-hand corner if it's been through the PIFTIC process. If something doesn't have a PIFTIC, it's not because we've thrown it together, it's because it might not necessarily need a PIFTIC. So a patient story would be their perspective. It's not strictly health information, so it's more to give people sort of inspiration and insight into that person's individual journey. And it's not for us to say what they should think or feel around that. We do still go through checks around patient stories to make sure there's nothing in there that could be unhelpful for people, but that's their experience and it doesn't need the PIF tick, so we just use it where it's needed. So our hope, we're nearly to an end here. Our hope is that these resources are as inclusive and accessible as we can get them at this point in time, with lots of ongoing work to do. The more we do, the more we learn how much more there is to do. We have a list of content we know is needed, that's been requested, and we also need the time and the funding to create that. We are just one small charity. We want to make resources, more in-depth resources around internal radiotherapy, side and late effects. We want to make more illustrations. We want to make more videos. We want to cover many more tumour sites. We want resources for patients, more resources for patients who were treated in the 1980s, who now have very specific and serious late effects to contend with. And we've also, our 2025 patient engagement group are full of energy and full of ideas, and they want some interactive resources as well. So we've got a lot to do.
Yeah, Alison, yeah, we're full of energy when we're not dealing with late effects. When I'm not on the toilet 30 times a day, yeah.
Exactly, Kathy, exactly.
Yeah.
And we're so grateful to have your suggestions. So I will, if Tegan could start to gather any questions out of the chat, I'm just going to share one more poll. And this is to hopefully get your insights into what information is personally useful to you. So that we can record that, or that's useful to your patients if you work with them. Lindsay, is that showing okay? Great, thank you so much. So I'll just a couple of minutes, and if Tegan, if you could just pull through any questions from the chat, and then we'll try and answer them. If anyone needs to duck off early, we completely understand. Seeing a strong response to a combination, that's what we've tried to do on the site, and we are really excited to then start to derive and create videos from some of the written text as well, so it's in more manageable bite-sized pieces. Okay, great. I'll just 5 more seconds. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to end poll and share the results. So heavily in favour of a good, strong combination. Thank you. And Tegan, I just wondered if we have any questions in the chat for myself, for Sophie, for Naman.
Just one question coming in from Tracy. Does the hub have any information about delays in treatment and what their risks would come from that?
Tracy, that's such a good question. And the group that we're working with in 2025 have really strongly asked for a layer of advocacy resources. We do have something in progress that we've begun to put together, including research that people can signpost to and to help understand what the risks may be. We've also included a variety of information around what help is available and the different ways you might approach that. We know it's a really difficult landscape for patients at the moment, and some people are waiting too long or not getting optimum treatments. There isn't always an easy answer, but we are really keen to help people advocate in a safe and sensible way, because we know from experience that being quiet and hoping for the best does not generally work out well for people. So that is a big priority for us. And yeah, hopefully we can deliver that for you and for patients very soon. Any more, Tegan?
There's nothing else, just some really lovely feedback regarding the hub, saying there's a great array of content on there, fantastic resources, and some really lovely comments for our guest speakers to say thank you for all of the points they brought up today. And thank you to you, Alison, as well, for the hub and for all the work I know that you've put in as well.
Thanks, Tegan. It's been a massive team effort. Definitely not just me, hundreds of people involved in this. I'll just finish by saying, please share the site far and wide. Please tell us what you think. There are feedback forms all the way through, and also email us directly as well. We welcome feedback and we will learn from it. We've got many more radiotherapy resources we want to make. It's a huge subject with so many layers, and right now registrations are open for Miles for Radiotherapy 2025. So if you want to give Naman a run for his money, please sign up and join us and help us fundraise to make the next step. Thank you all so much for coming along today. We'll be following up with an email with relevant links and information, and we really appreciate you joining us today and being part of this. So thank you, and have a lovely rest of your day.